Iran says it has launched a massive wave of drone strikes targeting Israel and US military bases in the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait. Iranian state media says the attacks targeted facilities including Al Minhad Air Base in the UAE and a strategic site in Israel as the war enters its second week. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it is watching for any US Navy move to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz as the regional war disrupts shipping. The warning comes after Washington said it may protect commercial vessels in the strategic waterway, which carries a large share of the world's oil trade. President Donald Trump calls for Iran's unconditional surrender in a major escalation 1 week after the United States and Israel began military operations. The statement comes as diplomatic mediation is discussed even while new missile and air attacks continue across the region. Israel launches heavy air raids on Hezbollah-controlled southern districts of Beirut in a campaign that has killed more than 200 people and displaced hundreds of thousands. The military issued evacuation warnings before targeting areas it describes as key Hezbollah strongholds in the Lebanese capital. Burning aircraft and thick smoke are seen at Tehran's Mehrabad airport after reported bombardment at Iran's main domestic aviation hub. The incident follows announcement of a wider offensive aimed at Iranian military and defense infrastructure. Russian President Vladimir Putin expresses support for an immediate ceasefire during a call with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. The Kremlin says Moscow is urging a return to diplomatic talks as fighting continues between Iran, Israel and US forces. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says Washington is monitoring reports that Moscow may be sharing intelligence with Tehran. He says any developments are being factored into American military planning during the current regional conflict. Saudi Arabia says its defences intercepted 6 drones heading toward a major oil field and a ballistic missile targeting a military facility. Authorities say the projectiles were aimed at the Shaybar energy site and Prince Sultan Air Base, which has hosted US Air Force operations. Iran's Revolutionary Guards say that they have targeted a US Air Combat Center and a satellite communications hub at the United Arab Emirates Al Dhafra Air Base. According to the IRGC, the attack is a part of Iran's retaliatory operations against American military presence in the region and is aimed at key US facilities hosted at the base near Abu Dhabi. Simultaneously, explosions have again been heard in several areas in Tehran. State media has reported huge blasts ringing out in multiple parts of Iran's capital earlier today. These come amid continuing strikes and counterstrikes between Iranian forces and US-Israeli operations. Joining us now, we have retired Major General Gigi Djuvedi, who is a war veteran and Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies located in New Delhi. Major General, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Now, what do you make of these latest strikes, considering as the Iranian president has apologized to Gulf neighbors for previous strikes and has said that he will not target friendly countries again?
Thank you, Ruby. Always a pleasure to be on the NewsX World. Well, the war is on 8th day today, and there are a couple of indications that how the war is panning out. First and foremost, it has become multi-theaters. There's a large geographic region of the Middle East that is actually impacted. Secondly, the war is being fought on the both sea, air, and the both sides are targeting each other's, defense and of course strategic installation. But the point is that as far as the Israel and the Americans are concerned, their basically strikes now are on the strategic targets, not so much the precision strike, but the major target like the airport, the defense installations, logistic hubs, and industrial installations which are actually contributing to the manufacture of the war waging material. On the other side, well, the Iranian strikes have come down, but still they are targeting the Israelis and also the bases within the Gulf region, American base in the Gulf region. Well, the Iranian may have apologized to the brothers in Gulf or Gulf country, but the point is that their strikes are continuing, and they have in fact mostly struck the civilian targets. So the point is, Ruby, at this time, the war is intense. It's being fought on the multiple front. There's no signs of any de-escalation. It's only going to intensify in times to come by going by a couple of statements. Firstly, President Trump, he has said that the war will go on till the Iranians surrender. That implies that Iranians would come on the knees and then come for the negotiation table. The second point is the Israelis also are striking the major targets, and as far as the Gulf countries are concerned, having been exposed and vulnerable to the Iranian attacks, they are coordinating their defense activities, and there have been meetings among the Gulf countries' defense ministers as to how to further coordinate their defense activities. Ruby.
Major General, please stay with us as we move to our next update. The Israel Defense Forces have confirmed that missiles were launched from Iran towards Israel a short while ago, and defense systems are currently working to intercept the threat. The Home Front Command has just issued an urgent alert to mobile phones in the affected areas. The public is urged to follow these directives as they are essential for safety. If individuals receive the alert, they are advised to enter a protected space immediately and stay inside until further instructions. Exiting the protected area will only be allowed after clear directions are given. The public is urged to stay safe and follow the command's guidelines. Joining us now live, we have Maddie Zweig, who is a geopolitical expert in Tel Aviv, Israel. Maddie, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Have you received this latest alert about missiles heading from Iran? Could you give us a bit of a background to the feeling at the moment?
The feeling at the moment is exactly the same as in the day one, a better feeling, because the quantity of missiles that they are getting succeeding to get to Israel, they're going down and down day by day. I mean, we receive alarms. The alarms now are more sophisticated than in the past. Now we receive an alarm that we are going to receive an alarm in some minutes. So it's much better, because then you prepare yourself to go to the shelters, and then when it's a real one, you go in some seconds down to the shelters, and everybody is doing that. If only in the cases that you are not in your home or close to a place like that, then you go inside some shop or something that usually they also, the ones that they are open and legally open, you can go there also down to a place which is secure. If you see from the beginning of the operation, or the war, as you want to call it, they were launching to Israel about 90 missiles a day. Then the second day was about 60. And then from the third day, it's already 20 or 18 or 15 or so ever. But most of them, like 99% of them, they are destroyed in the air. Some of them, the army let them go down to open spaces. And some of them, unfortunately, they have reached civilians, only civilians, because Iranians, not like Israelis or Americans, they only target civilians. I mean, they try, of course, to target also military bases, but they didn't succeed so far, and they were injuring and killing our civilians. This is not very easy period for us. We are with our, we cannot sleep normally. The day before yesterday, we had alarms, and I have to run several stages to down in the building at 2 in the morning, at 4 in the morning, at 6 in the morning. All your day is upside down. Children are suffering, of course. Everything is interrupted, but we do it with organization and discipline, and knowing that the ultimate goal is to diminish the maximum we can all the nuclear and missiles capabilities from Iran in order not to be threatened by this regime in years to come.
Mm-hmm. Maddie, please stay with us as we move to our next update. In a recent post shared on X, the Israeli Air Force has reported that the IDF has completed another wave of strikes overnight, targeting various areas in southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. The operation has focused primarily on rocket launches, stockpiles of weaponry, and additional military sites that allegedly belonged to the Hezbollah terror organization. Moreover, yesterday on the 6th of March, Israeli forces also struck commanders from the Radwan Force Unit and two structures used by the unit in the village of Majd al-Salam, located in southern Lebanon. These commanders had been actively working to advance and execute terror plots against IDF forces and Israeli citizens. The Israeli Air Force added that prior to the strikes, efforts were made to minimize the risk of civilian casualties. These measures included issuing advance warnings, employing precision-guided munitions, and conducting aerial observations to ensure the strikes were as accurate as possible. Additionally, the IDF has emphasized that its actions are a response to Hezbollah's decision to join the ongoing campaign, which is an armed group operating with support from Iran. According to reports, explosions were heard and air raid sirens sounded in Jerusalem as the US-Israeli war with Iran entered its second week. As per reports, at least 3 explosions were heard in the city. Over the past 24 hours, 6 air raid alerts have been issued across Israel. Authorities are urging the public to remain alert and follow all safety directives. Now joining us again, we have retired Major General Gigi Duvedi, who is a war veteran and Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, joining us from New Delhi. Gigi Duvedi, thank you so much for joining us again. Now, from a military perspective, how is conflict complicated in locations with very high population densities, as we have seen in Lebanon and also in Israel? 700,000 people were needed to be received evacuation warnings overnight. From a military perspective and your experience, how does this complicate conflict?
Well, Zubi, whenever you have to fight in the areas where very close proximity of civil population, there is always a concern of collateral damage. And ironically, the Hezbollah, their fortifications and their defenses are very closely interlinked with the civilian population. In fact, Hezbollah was created in 1982 by the Shia clerics of Lebanon and Iran. And they have been, I would say, a security concern for Israelis since then. And off and on, they have undertaken major operations. In 2006, there was a 34-day operation across the Litani River. And now again, the Hezbollah became active in 2023 when the Hamas attacked on 7th October, and since then they have been very active. And now they have undertaken a series of operations because in support of Iran, war that is going on. Now, 2-3 things which I like to clarify from the military point of view. Firstly, the Hezbollah positions, they have a very strong line of fortification across the Litani River, and they also operate from the civilian areas so as to get certain amount of immunity. And whenever there is strike and if the civilian casualty are caused, then they make a human right issue out of this. The second point is that now the Israelis had undertaken coordinated air and the ground offensive. The ground forces, in fact, the Israeli 146th Division is deployed here, and they have gone into the Lebanese position, and they said that we will go further if need be. And at the same time, the air is taking out the major fortifications, especially where the rocket launchers are deployed or where the short-range projectile is deployed. So this operation is going on, and it is a security concern for Israel because from southern, their northern borders or southern Lebanon, almost 70,000 the civilians have to be evacuated because of the war conditions. So therefore, this front is very sensitive, very active, and Israelis are carrying out very targeted operations, and in fact also engaging the Hezbollah leadership in Beirut. But the point is that these operations are likely to go on because proxies like Hezbollah also have joined the war, and they will be supporting the Iranians through the operations on the northern border of Israel, that is from the southern Lebanon. Ruby.
Yes. Now, why would we have heard the air raid, the development about blasts in Jerusalem? We've heard about developments happening in Lebanon, but why would there be blasts happening in Jerusalem right now in the West Bank?
Well, the point is that these militias, these small groups, they are active all over. And in West Bank also, this is a very sensitive area because there are a lot of Palestinians who are actually could be part of these disturbances, and also they, in a way, they have a small militia also which come into play whenever such a situation takes place. So therefore, there are a number of elements who are favorable or who are aligned to the regime in Iran. So these sort of small scale skirmishes also take place, and they are firefights, and they have been known to fire rockets not only from the side of I would say Gaza, but here also there are certain elements who are quite active and also undertake these small scale skirmishes, operations, firing rockets. So West Bank also is quite, I would say, not as active, of course, as Gaza, but there are elements who are, at times they get active and also they cause problems. But the point is that in this scenario, there are a number of, I would say, small groups which are in play and which are possibly causing such like blast or even the certain amount of I would say militant related or terrorist related activities. Ruby.
Major General, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. It's been a pleasure to hear your perspective. Now to our next story. Kuwait and Saudi Arabia are holding discussions on enhancing military cooperation with a focus on regional security and defence strategies. The talks come amid rising tensions in the Middle East, and both nations aim to strengthen their military ties to address emerging threats. Further details are expected as the discussions progress, with a focus on joint defence initiatives and strategic alignment in the region. As Kuwait and Saudi Arabia continue their discussions on military cooperation, the outcome will likely play a crucial role in shaping the security landscape of the Middle East. Strengthening defence ties between these two nations not only enhances regional stability, but also reinforces their collective ability to address growing security challenges. My colleague and senior editor Uday Pratap Singh has spoken to Lord Karan Bilamoria, member of the House of Lords, about the current state of India-UK relations, the implications of a free trade deal, and the UK's position on the ongoing Middle East conflict. They also discuss the impact of the war on oil and energy supplies and the economic consequences, along with the dynamics of UK-US relations in this context. All this and more at the Raisina Dialogue being held in India's capital, New Delhi. Let's take a look. And that's all that we have time for. Please keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.
In the midst of this, life persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists.
The physics was known for quite a while, and so I think it hasn't really changed our understanding the quantum world work.
Job with the James Webb Space Telescope was to look as far back in time as we could to see the universe as it was young.
Changing the basic attitude about what education is for and what it needs to be.
Biology, medical studies, they make great progress.
Welcome back to our special coverage of Raisina Dialogue 2026. We are now being joined on NewsX by Lord Karan Bilimoria, Member House of Lords, United Kingdom. Many thanks for speaking with us, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome back to India, of course. Good to have you back. Let's just talk a bit about India-UK ties, where you see things headed. Of course, your Prime Minister was in India recently at a very positive meeting with Prime Minister Modi. Spent a deal of time over here with his delegation, meeting a lot of our businessmen as well. Where do you see ties headed, sir, in 2026?
What is wonderful is the way that the free trade agreement, which negotiations started in January 2022 when I was president of the Confederation of British Industry, and I'm proud to have been the first Indian to have held that role. We started negotiations then. It took 3.5 years before we concluded them in July last year. In fact, I was in Italy and I got a phone call in the evening saying you're required at Chequers, the Prime Minister's country residence, tomorrow at 10:30. So I caught the earliest flight, got there. Prime Minister Narendra Modi flew over, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, they signed the free trade agreement. Great news, because let's put this in perspective. UK, 6th largest economy in the world. India, 4th largest economy in the world, soon to be the 3rd largest economy in the world, and by 2060, the largest economy in the world, in my prediction. And yet, India is only the 11th largest trading partner of the UK. It should be one of the handful of biggest trading partners. Now with this free trade agreement, I think that bilateral trade in goods and services, which stands at about just over $50 billion today, will double to $100 billion by 2030. It's going to turbocharge trade, business, and investment between the two countries.
Absolutely, and we're certainly hoping for that. Which are the other areas of convergence you see between the UK and India that you believe we can certainly work much more closer towards?
Absolutely. And this is a very special relation. Of course, it's an ancient relation, 400 years going back to 1614. But it's more than just trade and business and investment. It is about education. Indian students, along with Chinese, are the largest international students in the UK, and we have the best universities in the world, along with America. And we want more and more Indian students to come to the UK. We also want British students to come and study here in Indian universities. We've got British universities now being allowed to set up campuses in India, foreign universities, and the British universities are front of the line, with already well over 10 of them started or going to start campuses from Delhi to Mumbai, all over the country. Wonderful news. Then you've got to take it one step further. If we are true trusted partners, which I think we are, then it's about security and it's about defense. And we already have exchange of officers at courses at the Defence Services Staff College here, Royal College of Defence Studies in the UK, joint exercises, Army, Navy, Air Force. We should have much more, including in defence manufacturing, because the UK has some of the best quality defence manufacturing in the world, with companies like BAE Systems, with submarines and aircraft. That's where we can partner with India and manufacture in India as trusted partners to the benefit of India and to the UK.
It took a long time for the deal to fructify. Of course, as you said, you were one of the principal architects to start it, being, of course, head of industry there, and being also a member of our Indian diaspora. How soon before we see it being implemented and the benefits come on ground for the companies concerned?
In spirit, it's already up and running. What we have to wait for is the official ratification by the UK Parliament, and that will happen. And then, of course, the things like tariffs, the huge tariffs of 150% on whiskey and cars will drop. So that's round the corner. But all the other things are going on, the mutual recognition of qualifications, one-year master's degrees, the most popular course for an Indian student going to England is now recognized here. Foreign lawyers, British law firms, the best law firms in the world can now soon be able to practice in India. So all that is happening. And the point you made is very important. One of the biggest strengths of this relationship is the almost 2 million strong Indian diaspora, if I'm proud to be a member, in the UK. It's the largest ethnic minority community in the UK. But more importantly, and I say this with pride, and I boast, it is the most successful ethnic minority community in the UK by far. We contribute to the economy multifold our proportion to the population of just under 2 million people out of 70 million people. And the Indians are reaching the very top in business, in politics, in every sphere you can imagine, professional services. Some of the biggest banks are run by Indians, law firms, the most prestigious investment bank in the world, Lazards, is run by Zoroastrian Parsi Cyrus Kapadia, an Indian. So, there is no end to it about how well the Indian community is a model immigrant community integrated into the UK, all over the UK, contributing to the UK and being a living bridge between the United Kingdom and India and being permanent ambassadors for the relationship.
Let me also now ask you about, of course, the big topic that is also finding a lot of significance at this forum, which is the Middle East conflict. We've seen, of course, US and Israel strike Iran. Iran is retaliating. There's, of course, chaos in a lot of Gulf and Arab countries as well. How do you view this conflict? Where do you see it headed? And how do you also react to the position that the UK has taken through your government on the war?
Sadly, in fact, going back again to when I was president of the Confederation of British Industry, in February, exactly 4 years ago in 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. And that war is still on 4 years later. The horrific, tragic loss of life and all the injured individuals, it's awful. I wish that war would stop. But when that war started, immediately it destabilized not just Russia and Ukraine, but the whole world. The UK was hit immediately, even though we didn't buy gas from Russia, countries like Germany did. Energy prices rocketed. UK, which has an inflation target of 2%, our inflation went up to 11%. We don't get double-digit inflation in the UK. Energy prices rocketed. So it affected consumers, it affected business, it affected our economy. That's the problem with conflicts, is they don't just affect the countries involved directly, it affects everybody. And then we had the problems in the Middle East since 2023, and now we've got the attacks on Iran. And exactly what happened with Ukraine is happening over here, that the Straits of Hormuz are a very important route for 20% of the world's energy. And if those are blocked, supplies are blocked for the whole world. Even countries like that do not buy directly, India gets affected, we all get affected. And what is also worrying about this conflict is Iran has retaliated not just against Israel and American bases. They've attacked so many of the Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia, including Jordan, including the UAE. And that is extremely worrying. We hope it doesn't escalate. On the other hand, the Iranian regime, the whole world is united. It is one of the most monstrous, oppressive regimes in the world for nearly 50 years, suppressing their population. The way they treat women is absolutely appalling. The way in which protests just recently, 30,000 people were killed, people were tortured. They are a nasty regime. They have sponsored terrorism around the world, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's the Houthis, whether it's Hamas, whether it's their own terrorism directly around the world, which has affected countries like the UK. If Iran were to get a nuclear bomb, that would be hugely alarming for the whole world. And the tragedy of it is that the Iranian people and the Iranian country, if they were freed, if they were to have a free democracy, it would be one of the most powerful, influential, flourishing countries in the world. And if only that could happen.
The US, interestingly, if we talk about the US president, he's been critical a bit about your government, though, not being so proactive in allowing him to use bases, saying we're not dealing with Winston Churchill here. How do you view that statement?
The UK and the USA are long-standing friends. You just historically, whether it's the First World War, whether it's the Second World War, we've always stood side by side. And even now the UK is playing a role, in a defensive role, in helping, and we will always be friends. There's no question about that.
Final question then to you on the economic costs, because you understand that as a businessman. Are you worried that there are going to be a spurt in oil prices, in energy costs, in ramifications of this war in terms of economic cost of it as well? Because trade stands to get affected, supply of logistics stands to get affected. Are you worried that a prolonged conflict will lead to economic costs and ramifications?
Well,
And is that already happening?
I'm chairman of the International Chamber of Commerce, the ICC UK, and we're regional coordinators for the ICC Europe. Trade is so important globally, and especially for a country like the UK, which is historically a trading nation. Let's just go back to the Ukraine war. When that started, it affected supply chains, it affected energy, it affected oil prices. Oil prices then went up to over 100. They're already now, because of the Iran attacks, going to 90, and they will keep climbing. Supply chains are getting affected. Inflation is going to start. There's no question about it. And we've had the disruption of all the tariff wars, which started in April last year as well. So from a business point of view, this is a very challenging environment because business craves certainty. And at the moment, we've got the most uncertain environment globally you could imagine. So it's not a nice situation. This is where countries like the UK and India need to work more closely than ever as trusted allies in this fragile, uncertain global environment.
Thank you very much for your time, Lord Bill Murray, and enjoy the rest of your trip.
Thank you very much.
With journalist Dinesh Udai Pratap Singh in Delhi.